Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Evolving Women. I'm Teresa Lysam with my amazing guest co-host, Laurie Crawford. Hi, Laurie.
Hello, Teresa. Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
so much
me.
for being here. It's an honor to have you
Yeah, this is
on
great.
this episode. So, I want to just start with the fact that you're a retirement life coach. And I would love to hear how you got there. As I said before we hit the recording, nobody grows up or goes to college to be a retirement life coach. So something must have happened that inspired you to want to help women create the best retirement possible. So can you explain a little bit how you got here and what it is that you do?
Whatever I have done in my career, it's always been about empowering women and how can I be involved in empowering women. Prior to coaching, most of my career was in nonprofit and government, some time in the corporate world and some time in higher education. And I always came back to how can I be involved in efforts that are empowering women.
Mhm.
So just before I went back to school to become a coach, I was working in a nonprofit and I reached a point of burnout and was able to take a little bit of time, about 3 months, to think about what's next. What do I want to do next? There are lots of things I could have done, but what would make my heart sing? What would make me want to get up every day and go do it? And so I landed on coaching. And because prior to leaving my former job, I had been working with a coach and noticed what a difference that made in helping me expand my thinking and really tap into my own knowing, which is something that I think somewhere along the way, we can lose that. We can lose we forget that we have our own answers. And that was really
Mhm.
intriguing to me. I loved that. So fast forward after coaching for about 9 years, someone said to me, actually, multiple people said to me, Laurie, do you do retirement coaching? And I
Hmm.
thought, exactly. That's
Hmm.
intriguing. And when I thought about it a little more and did some research, there are certainly retirement coaches out there, and there were retirement training programs out there. So explored it and thought, this is yet another way that I can be involved in women empowering themselves or me being part of empowering women. I think we have a lot to offer the world, and we see that in the corporate world. We see that in our everyday lives, the many things that women do to make life better for all of us. And retirement is simply another phase. So, again, went back to school to learn what retirement coaching could look like. And because I'm a Gen Xer, I thought this is the place for me. It's about coaching Gen X women because Gen X women are in that pre-retirement phase. So born 1965 to 1980. So as of 2026, they are from age 46 to age 61. 46, kind of young to be thinking about retirement, but I have found that right around 50, women start thinking about it seriously. There's something about that age. There's something about 50 that is a major shift for women. And then again at 55. And certainly women who are 61, they are definitely thinking about retirement. Some of them have already retired.
Mhm.
It's an
Mhm.
early retirement, so to speak. So it's an age range that's perfect for considering what they want their retirement to look like.
Well, I'm glad you defined Gen X because, we have all these labels that somebody, I don't know who, slaps on these generations or these decades or this span of time. And I sometimes get confused as to what is what. What there's the boomers and there's the millennials. I don't know, Gen X, maybe I got them flipped. I don't know. But it's just amazing to me that somebody thinks to pick out a particular generation and then they all have their own characteristics, correct?
Right. Yeah, and I think we can decide where we belong, right? So let's say somebody was born in 19, I don't know, 66. They might think, I don't know, I think I have more in common with boomers. Or
Mm,
someone was born in 1979. They might think, I have more in common with millennials. And so it's a way to categorize us to be able to, especially if you're working with somebody who's in that generation, regardless of what you do, you can get a general understanding of how they approach the world, how what their habits and patterns might be, the kinds of experiences they've had in their generation, and it gives you an understanding about how to work with them. And Gen X often gets skipped, right? We go right from boomers to millennials.
yeah.
And that is one of the descriptors of the Gen X generation, and that is the forgotten generation. It's about 19% of the population. There are 65 million of us. Millennials are the largest portion of the population. I want to say they're at 74 million. I don't have the exact number right now, but Gen X is a pretty large generation. And so a good one to pay attention to their needs.
I have heard that they were the forgotten generation. I don't know why that is, but it's almost like a joke that that nobody remembers who they are. So I appreciate that sense of humor around it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the explanation is behind that, but thank you for that definition. And I love that everything you've done is always involved empowering women. I like to think of myself in that category as well. And I love that you said coaching expands our thinking. Like I like to think of it as we have our stories, we have things going on in our head, and it's good to have a person outside of our head that can help us expand our thinking and think something new and reflect things back to us. So I think coaching is really possibly coming into its own where people are seeing the value of having coaches for different reasons.
You know, the magical thing that my coach said to me was this is after about 6 months of coaching with her. Laurie, what do you want? And I
Mm,
immediately said what I wanted.
mm,
And that's what I was saying earlier about sometimes we forget that we have our own answers. And this is certainly, I think, the case for every generation, but certainly for Gen X, which is, we're at that time in our lives where we've been taking care of everyone else, making sure
hmm
everyone else's needs are met, making sure the family is good, all those things. And then we reach a point where it's our turn and we get to say, yeah, what do I want? What
hmm
do I want? And I found it sounds like an easy question to answer,
Yes, yes.
but it took a little bit of work for me to get there. It took all those months of coaching to be able to sort through what I enjoyed, what I didn't, what was burning me out, what wasn't, all those kinds of things for that one question
hmm
to be asked at the right time, which is what coaches do. They know what questions to ask at the right time because they get to know you, what matters to you, what you value. And when you get that right question at the right time, there is instant clarity. But
Right.
it can take a little while to get there sometimes. But it's an important question to ask ourselves over and over again. What do I want? And then to allow the space to be able to get that clarity.
I love that. And you're right, it is a simple question, but so many of us don't have an answer. And you said it took you some months. I would say for me, it took me some years, and I don't even know if I exactly have an answer for that, a final answer. To me, it's always in motion. It's a question that can be answered differently at different times in our lives. I think it really first comes up right in that young adulthood,
Mhm.
right when we have to kind of make a decision what we want to do with our lives and what kind of a role we want to fit into and a job to take. And then I think sometimes we forget it's going to come up again later on in life. As you said, around 50, like there's these different points in our life where that's good to ask that
Yeah.
again and
Yeah,
reevaluate.
exactly. And maybe even to have conversations with other women,
Mm,
because it's important for us to know that we're not the only one, and to be able to just be able to say out loud, this is what I'm thinking, or what's coming up for you? What direction are you headed in? What's getting in your way? What are your fears? What are you excited about? Because we keep a lot of those things oftentimes to ourselves,
yes.
especially our
Yeah.
fears.
Yes.
Uh, and so the more we can talk about it, the more we feel like we're not the only one, the more we can get out of our own head about it. Because when we get stuck in here,
Right.
we're more like it's more likely to cause inaction than action.
Yes. Yes. So true. And even on a daily basis, we could ask that of ourselves. What do I want in this moment right now
Mhm.
or today? That intentionality. It doesn't have to be a big philosophical question to ask ourselves about our lives.
Yeah.
It could be just in this moment.
Well, and it's also helpful for us to, I think we start to give ourselves permission at around 52, not 52 with the age of 50. We start to give ourselves permission to do things that we may not have done before. And I want to give you an example. I was coaching with a woman who worked from home and she had children at home. And I asked her something around, what do you really want? Something like that. It's been a little while, so I can't remember exactly what. And she said, I want to be able to go grocery shopping in the middle of the day. Now think about that,
Yeah.
right? I work from home. I'm going to get the work done. But
Hmm.
from her perspective, the rules were you don't go grocery shopping in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the freedom that she felt when she decided to do that, because once she said it out loud, this is what I want to do. It seems so simple. It
Hmm.
seems almost on some level ridiculous,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But when she did that, no children because they were in school, not worrying about work, made sure, everything was covered,
Hmm.
spouse at work, she
Yeah.
got to go and leisurely go grocery shopping, get what she needed, bring everything home, get everything put away without anybody asking her any questions, and to just do what she wanted to do. There is such freedom in that. And she
Hmm.
started doing that regularly. But it required the question, what is it that you want again? And for her to be able to say it out loud. Another way that we can share with one another, and it's an opportunity for a friend to say, well, then why don't you?
Hmm.
Who says you can't? And what
Oh,
we
I know.
find is I say I can't. It's
Yeah,
my own rule,
exactly.
and I'm getting in my own way.
Exactly.
Nobody's telling me I can't do it. There's a lot of that. At least there
Yeah,
is for
yeah,
me.
yeah. Well, I think women in general, there's a lot of that. I know
Yeah,
you were referencing Gen X, nurturing others and taking care of others. I mean, I think that applies to women in general across the board, not just specific to Gen X. But I love that you said we give ourselves permission to go in the middle of the day or
yeah,
whatever, whatever it is. Because I think a lot of times we're waiting for that outside, external permission from some outside authority, and we really don't need that. We can give ourselves permission.
yes, we
That's
can.
huge.
Hmm. Just realizing it is huge.
Yes,
And then
yes.
next is actually doing it,
Hmm.
right?
And it could be a little scary, possibly, to give ourselves permission to do something that we would not normally be doing. But
Right.
that this whole concept of permission, I think, is huge. And thank you for bringing it up. And I love the idea about what do you want. But I really want to come back to the idea of retirement. So you help women kind of like be proactive about retirement, I'm guessing. Am I correct there?
Yeah. So retirement, of course, is a transition. And
Hmm.
whenever we have a transition in our lives, it's really important for us first to think about what our values are.
Oh,
And again,
yes.
seems like something that's really simple and unnecessary, but our values shift, especially during transitions. And it's at least worth reflecting on them. maybe just a couple change, but maybe there's an overhaul. And it's helpful to look at that first. And then we explore the money is usually what people think about with retirement. It's, am
Hmm.
I going to have enough money? And Gen X is a generation that, while there is going to be a generational wealth transfer, right now is the least prepared for retirement of the
Hmm.
generations.
Hmm.
Our generation, our parents had pensions, and our generation was the start
Mhm.
of 401ks.
Good point.
So
Yeah.
it's a little bit more challenging. And some people have done really well, but a lot of people haven't with Gen X. And they feel like they're not going to have enough money to retire. And that's part of what keeps them working. But there are so many other areas of life to look at. And that's what I explore with women. It's everything from health to relationships to their home environment, to fun and leisure, personal development, all of these areas of life that are with us all the time for us to
Hmm.
explore, but they become more important in retirement to just at least think about, what do I want this to look like? And we talk about satisfaction in each area. So someone might say that on a scale of 1 to 10, their satisfaction in their relationships is at a 5. But for right now, it's not something they want to focus on. Maybe next year, but not right now.
Hmm.
They might say that their home environment they would rate at a 9, and there's nothing that we need to do with it. Or they rate it at a 7, and there's some room there, and they say, I think I might want to think about downsizing. Or perhaps we want to do something to our home to make it more likely that we can stay in it longer. Whatever it is, it's let's talk about how satisfied you are in each of these areas and where you want to put your time and energy in planning.
Hmm.
Now, perhaps for the next year. Women come to retirement coaching, their planning ranges are very different. For some women, they're retiring in less than a year, and they haven't even thought about it. They just know they are ready to be done. They're January, that's it. At the end of the year, they're done. And
Hmm.
I want to have a plan right now. And they may continue coaching after that into their retirement so that they can assess, reassess. Other women say, I'm going to retire in 5 years.
Hmm.
And I don't want to do this overnight. I want to really be thinking this through. And it gives them a chance to have conversations with family, to take a step back and think through, yeah, what do I really want? Again, because we don't necessarily think about what we want while we're working. So there are lots of areas that we cover, and it allows space for not taking quick action and instead thinking it through.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for that. And knowing that we don't have to make all the changes all at once.
Yeah. And especially if you're planning for it, if you give yourself that runway, something that feels important today, after we talk it through, you may find that this really isn't that important to me, or
Hmm.
vice versa. Something you think is not very important. Oh, I guess it is. I guess this is something that I want to focus on. Relationships is a really big one.
Hmm.
It's we take for granted our relationships, and our children are adults, and relationships change when our kids become adults.
Yes.
They just do. They
Yes.
have their own lives, they're making their own decisions. You may or may not agree with those decisions. And I think oftentimes we have to come to terms with, not all the time, but many times, we have to come to terms with, I don't, I have no decision making power here.
Right.
This is not up to me. And we want to emotion our way through that and really think through, what do I want this to look like? I like to say, is there anything I need to apologize for? When they were growing up, because there's probably a lot of that too.
Yeah.
But it's just again, just giving ourselves an opportunity to have space to think about it in ways that we haven't before.
Mm, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, that relationship dynamic change is big and something we don't necessarily think about. As you said, retirement planning, everybody automatically thinks about the financial piece of it.
Mhm.
and they don't realize or they don't think about all these other layers and these levels until maybe they're in it. They jump from the working side to the retirement side, and they're on that retirement side like, oh crap, what? Did I
Yeah.
make the right decision? Because they didn't think about all those different pieces.
Yeah. Teresa, another area is health. Gen X is very focused on health, being healthy as they get older. And that's a little bit different than the previous generation. And especially for, older boomers. And Gen X looks at, parents and maybe grandparents
Hmm.
and says, I think might want to do this differently.
Yes, yes.
I think I might really want to take my health seriously when I'm younger and make sure that I'm able to get up off the floor,
Hmm.
make sure that I'm doing strength training, make
Yeah.
sure that I'm eating foods that are going to fuel my body. And I see I see intention behind understanding health and nutrition. What's good for my body? What do I want to put into it? How do I want to take care of it? As being a high priority for Gen X.
Mm. Good for them. I love
Yeah.
that. And like you said, I have made certain choices myself based on how I saw my parents, my grandparents moving through their lifespan. And the choices they were making were not always the best.
Yeah.
And so I saw things play out for them that I'm like, no, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, but I will make my own choices. I will do things differently. So, as you said, that my life plays out in a higher quality way from what I saw play out for them.
Mhm. Well, and I think our parents were more likely to go into the doctor's office and do whatever they were told.
Oh, yes.
And Gen X is more likely to say, let's partner here. Help me to
Mm,
understand why you're asking me to do what you're asking me to do. How is this going to help? Explain how this works in my body and feels more educated. And when you have the information you need, you're probably going to be a more, I don't like this word, but compliant patient. You're going to be more likely to do what is good for your body. And it may not be what your physician says after the conversation that you have with them. It may be an agreement that you're going to try something different for a little while and not just do what you're told. But the point is that there's a partnership instead of it being,
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
telling you what to do and you're going to do it. It seems to me that that's probably better for our health long term.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. But you're right. I have seen that. They were just following the advice given to them, no questions asked. But I go in like with a little notebook and I ask questions and I do it differently because
Yeah.
I want to be empowered and make choices. As
Yeah.
you said, like look within to help us make choices. The answers are within, they're not always coming from without. We can get those suggestions, gather our information, and then make the ultimate decision ourselves. So I like that you use the word partner. You're
Hmm.
partnering with some medical people, some health oriented people. You're not just giving your power over to them.
Yeah. Well, it makes you responsible for your own health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I, I think that's important for when you own it and you're accountable to yourself for your own health, you're more likely to make good decisions because it's on you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on your doctor.
Right. And I wanted to come back to values. I know we're coming to the end of our time together. There's so much more we could be talking about.
Hmm.
But I wanted to agree with you on awareness and knowing what our values are as we go through these transitions and make different choices. I went through the bulk of my life not knowing what my values were. But
Yeah.
when I finally went through that exercise, and they came, I got them down to a few that I knew were really solid. Like I have been able to make some different choices based on those values and the clarity around those values. So I too feel it's very, very important to have an understanding of what our values are. So
Something
thank
that
you.
walks right alongside our values is our strengths. And what I think is important about that is we spend our careers, I think, always trying to improve our weaknesses, perceived weaknesses. And my perspective is, especially as we get into the 50s, I think this is powerful throughout our lives, but especially once we get into the 50s, is, well, that's great, but what are my strengths? What do I do really well? How do I show up as my best and lean into that? Just lean into that because that is empowering. That's what allows us to walk into a room and feel like we are going to shine instead of
Hmm.
saying, oh gosh, what do I not do so well? Yeah, there are things we all don't do so well. But if I say, I am really good at this, my strength is in this area, and you focus on that, then it's more likely that we show up in our with the best possible energy that we can bring to the situation.
Hmm. In our own authenticity.
Yeah.
And strengths is that's my thing. I love that. And it's some people think of it as their skill set that they've learned throughout their life, and it's not. It's outside that skill set.
Mhm.
I like to think of it as our soft skills, our attributes, our characteristics, our
Exactly.
like you said, who we are without all of that stuff, without the roles and the hats that we wear. But yeah, that could take us into a whole
Yes, it could.
lengthy conversation. So I'm just grinning away when you're talking about that stuff. Oh yeah, you're talking my language. But I do want to wrap this up, but I love that I just wrote down that 50s seem to be a magical age. Like I've heard people like, "Oh, I'm turning 50 next year." And I'm thinking, good for you, because it's
Yes.
going to open so many doors and your life is going to be so much better.
Well, and think about all the wisdom we gain with every year of life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what age it was that I started thinking, oh my gosh, this is great. I have a birthday, I'm another year older. And I really, really feel that way now. With every year, I feel like I have stepped further into wisdom, and it's a joy to celebrate.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see. I turned 60 in 2 years, and I'm already thinking about what do I want to do for that year? How do I want to celebrate turning 60? Not how do I want to feel a certain way that's not good about turning 60, but how do I want to celebrate it and feel joyful about it and bring other people into it and
Mm.
also be part of supporting other women in celebrating every single birthday that they have.
I love that. Just the idea of celebrating that new year of wisdom that you have under your belt. That I love that because some people kind of dread when their birthday comes around or they start to feel in a negative way and it's a bad thing. Like, no, no, it's not. I totally agree with you.
Mm,
It's exciting and it should be celebrated. So thank you for
yes,
that.
yes,
Before we
absolutely.
sign off, I want people to know how they can reach out to you. And I also would like to give you the last word, anything you want to share with those of our listeners and our viewers that are listening into this conversation.
So the way to find me, everything is lauriecrawfordcoaching.com. So it's Laurie Crawford Coaching website, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And I invite people to visit me there and find more information. What I want to leave you with is what we started with, and that is ask yourself, what do I want? And then give yourself space to let that answer come. And in addition, have conversations with other women who are asking the same question. Say it out loud, share that information with others, share your fears, share your hopes. And when you do that, it makes it come alive. And what we want is more women who are coming alive.
Love that. Thank you so much. A great, great thing to end on. And I do want to let our viewers know and our listeners know that we will put your contact info in the description in the show notes with this episode so they can find you very easily. I want to say thank you so much, Laurie, for bringing your wisdom and what you're doing out into the world for women everywhere. I hope they connect in with you. Thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you,
appreciate you
Teresa.
so much. Thank you to everybody who's listening in. If you found this episode powerful and informative and you know of someone to share it with, please share it. Leave a comment if this has resonated with you and what you think about values or what you want or anything that we talked about. Please share with us. And then I have to put this little sign up to remind me to say these things. So do this stuff
I
if you
love it.
like this episode. And thank you, everybody listening in. Thank you, Laurie. Appreciate you. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.